before I get started, I'd like to ask you to please submit your questions via the chat feature in the GoToMeeting console. And at the end of the slide portion of the webinar, I'll get your questions. I have about 15 slides I'll go through before a short demo here. So my name is Mike Borrego. I am a consultant with Li9 Technology Solutions, and we're based out of the Phoenix, Arizona area. We are a solutions provider focused on delivering solutions in 4 key areas. Those 4 key areas are cloud, that's cloud applications, IaaS, software as a service, infrastructure, migration services, managed cloud services, things of that nature. We also focus on applications and application delivery. That's ALM tools and container solutions, built on Docker and OpenShift, for example. Also automation, infrastructure automation, using things like Ansible. DevOps services, continuous integration, continuous delivery, very popular, things going on in the industry right now. And finally, infrastructure, that includes backup and recovery solutions, storage, your servers, compute infrastructure, virtualization, and then converged, hyper-converged systems. We offer a variety of vendor solutions and have key partnerships with many of the major IT companies in the market today. Many of those are listed here with really our focus kind of on this top tier. Li9 views open source solutions as a key driver of changes and growth within the IT community, and thus we have partnered with Red Hat to focus on delivering solutions with that open source methodology and mindset in place. So here what you're seeing is an overview of the products that make up the overall Red Hat product portfolio. On the top here we have the Red Hat service offerings category. That's things like Red Hat's consulting and training services, also their innovation labs. On the left here we have developer tools, right, including the very popular JBoss Developer Studio, the OpenShift container development platform, as well as Red Hat ALM. On the right, we have the security and management portion of the portfolio, and this includes products like Ansible, which is used for infrastructure automation, Satellite for security and patch management of Red Hat Linux operating systems, and then CloudForms, which is used for building out hybrid clouds. In the center here, we have the core of the Red Hat portfolio, right? That's the middleware and application services, right? This is built around the JBoss suite of middleware products used to develop applications, as well as 3Scale, which is used for API management. At the bottom here, we also have kind of the base of all of these tools, right? And that's their infrastructure software offerings. This includes the very popular RHEL, or Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system, Red Hat storage, composed mainly of Ceph and Gluster storage technologies, OpenStack, which is a cloud cloud management platform, and finally Red Hat virtualization, right? That's their hypervisor, which is going to be the focus of this presentation as you move forward in. Before I get into Red Hat virtualization, I want to talk about Red Hat's subscription model and what that is, right? So Red Hat software is provided to users or customers via subscription model. So what is included in that, and what does that really consist of? Well, there's really 8 primary items that are included within the subscription, right? So the first is access to the customer portal, right? This is your unified location, the web application where you'll log in to view your subscription benefits. Things like support cases. You can log support cases or view product documentation, installation guides, user guides, download the actual software, right, and the data that you need to install the application, as well as view the status of your subscriptions. You also have access to the knowledge base, right? This is access to product documentation, like I mentioned before, troubleshooting information, access to community user groups, so you can, work with other Red Hat community members to get information on your product. You also get access to product security, right? Product updates, patches. You can view security alerts that are available if there's something that's going out there that they're aware of that they're going to be releasing a patch for. You can get access about that in the portal. You also get extended lifecycle support. Now this is support of a particular product during the life cycle of it, as well as beyond that life of the product if you need it, right? So you can purchase additional extended lifecycle support through your subscription to support your product. Many Red Hat products have a 10-year life cycle, but each product is really different. Most of them have 10 years. So like, for example, JBoss and RHEL, those are 10-year life cycles. Globalization, you have a multi-language and regional support, right? So you'll get software that is, has language and is developed for your region. Certifications, this is interoperability testing to certify that their products will work on specific vendor platforms. And there's no lock-in, right? You can cancel your subscription whenever you want, right? So you can purchase it in a year increment or month to month, however you want, and you can just cancel it whenever you want. And finally, given this is an open source company and their products are open source, there's an open source community advocacy group within Red Hat that'll ensure that any changes or modifications you want to see in a product will make its way downstream into the Red Hat product releases. There are two primary support options for Red Hat products. That's standard and premium. Both standard and premium support options cover support for any environment, whether it's development, QA, production, doesn't matter. You get access to support via the customer web portal, as well as also on the phone or via chat within the portal. You're going to get support from certified Red Hat engineers, right, and product specialists that are specialized in the particular product they need support on. And finally, you're going to get the ability to log an unlimited number of tickets as you want with either option. What differentiates the two is the support hours and the service level agreement associated with each plan. So with standard support, support is available to you during standard support hours, right? So that's defined as 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. local time within North America, within your region. With premium support, support is available to you 24/7 for your severity 1 and 2 cases, which are the most urgent and critical cases. And then during standard support hours for severity 3 and 4 cases, which are your, medium to low issue, nothing, like production's not down, for example. As for your SLAs, with standard support, for your urgent and high cases that are, severity 1 and 2, you're going to get a 1 to 4 business hour response time for those for standard support. And then for your medium and low cases, you have a 1 to 2 day business response time, so 1 to 2 business days. With premium support, however, urgent and high cases have up to a 1 hour response time. Many times it's less than an hour. So if you log a case, an urgent case or a critical case, you're going to get called back within an hour. For severity, medium, and low cases, you're going to have a 4 to 8 business hour response time for those. This is a brochure that Red Hat publishes. It's called the CIO's Alternative, very popular brochure. And what it does is it shows how Red Hat's products and technologies can be leveraged in contrast to other of the more proprietary, bigger vendors in the market today. So for example, here you can see how Red Hat Cloud Forms can be used in lieu of, VMware, vRealize, or RightScale, scalar type platform for building out clouds. What we have in the center here in this red is a snippet from the brochure that shows how Red Hat virtualization can be used in lieu of major market vendors like VMware and Microsoft. And there are, companies out there, many companies out there that are using Red Hat virtualization exclusively to run their workloads, right? One of those is listed here. It's PL Ferrari. They're an insurance broker. Another one is Florida Hospital in Orlando. They all use RHV hypervisors for running their VMs. So what is Red Hat virtualization? How does it work as an open source product? So RHV is the only end-to-end open source virtualization platform designed for the enterprise. So RHV is based on 2 open source upstream community projects, right? That's Overt and Fedora. Overt is the open project based on the very popular KVM hypervisor. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. And then Fedora is the upstream project for RHEL, right? So Red Hat, what they've done is they've, along with other individual community contributors, some that are listed here, they'll develop and contribute to these open source projects in the community. And what they'll then do is take features and code from these projects downstream. They'll further develop them internally, incorporate their services, things like the integration testing we talked about, supportability, documentation, performance testing, all of those things, and then release the product to the enterprise, right? So, such that it's hardened and it's an enterprise-grade product that can be used in these businesses. So here is an architecture diagram of Red Hat virtualization at a very high level and what it consists of. So I'll start at the bottom. At the bottom here, what we have is the Red Hat virtualization hypervisor running, various operating systems. You can use, console access to those via the SPICE or VNC protocols and applications. We then have the Red Hat virtualization manager, and that's used to manage those hosts, right? So if you're, a VMware person, or this is the equivalent of vCenter, right? So Red Hat virtualization manager is basically vCenter. In the back end, RHV leverages a Postgres SQL database, and it also supports directory service integration. So if you're running things like Active Directory, Red Hat directory server, it can integrate with those so you have user authentication, to your existing directory service. In addition to that, you have, it supports a variety of SAN and NAS storage protocols to build out your storage, your shared storage in storage domains. In the front end, we have a variety of application interfaces, right? We have a web UI for administrator access. There's a web application for user access, right, that is separate from the administrator portal. That can be controlled using role-based permissions, as well as REST APIs and software development kits for developing your own functionality and adding to it if you'd like. So since RHV is built on RHEL, you inherit the same performance, scalability, and supportability you would also get with RHEL, right, along with the same hardware and software ecosystem support. Each Red Hat host or virtual host supports 288 logical CPUs and 12 terabytes of memory in each host. And then each guest can leverage up to 240 virtual CPUs and 4 terabytes of memory, right? So that's a large amount of resources. It should be able to run just about every workload you can think of. Also, the latest virtualization technology and a variety of operating system guests are supported, including Windows, which is a very popular operating system, as well as a variety of other Linux distributions, including CentOS, SUSE, and a variety of others. So RHV contains most, if not all, of the enterprise features you would see in the major vendors like VMware and Microsoft, but it's at a fraction of the cost, right? RHV is significantly less expensive than vSphere and Hyper-V. So, for example, on the VMware, if you're familiar with VMware, you have the concept of vMotion, right? So in RHV, you have a live migration, which is essentially the same technology. You have high availability, right? So if you have a host failure within a cluster, that virtual machine will power on to a healthy host within that cluster, and so you can have a continuation of operations, right? Same technology. It's basically what was in vCenter, right? Automated resource load balancing, right? This is the equivalent of DRS, or distributed resource scheduling, within VMware. So this is VMs moving within a cluster to load balance, memory, CPU, and other resources across the hosts in the cluster. Storage live migration, storage vMotion, right? The moving of a virtual disk from one data store or storage domain to another. Role-based access controls available. The hot add of memory and CPU to a guest operating system. If the operating system supports that, then you can go ahead and add memory and CPU to the VM without any downtime. Power management technology, right? If you want to save energy or have an energy saving initiative internally, there are tools that you can use to leverage power management. VM templates, NUMA support for HPC or high performance computing. There's just a variety of features that you'll see in other hypervisor technologies. And I'm going to go through in a demo after these slides some of these technologies and how they look in VMware versus how they look in RHV as well. So RHEV Manager, that's the equivalent of vCenter, like I discussed, right? It's used to, it's a central tool used to manage all the virtual infrastructure, all your data centers, hosts, virtual machines, your networking storage. It's designed for large-scale use, so you can have a large number of hosts and VMs. Over 5,000 VMs can be managed within RHEV Manager. There are a variety of administrative interfaces, which I discussed before, software development kits, and of course, intuitive dashboard with detailed information, performance information, and a variety of other data you can look at. So, RHEV is intended and can be used with in many of the use cases that exist for virtualization today. You can run your mission-critical virtualization applications on it. For example, if you're running Oracle SAP, you can run those applications on RHEV as well. If you're building out cloud infrastructure, right, you can integrate, RHEV with, tools like OpenStack or CloudForms to build out, your private and public cloud. Dev and test. Dev and test is a big use case for RHEV and other other systems that you want to run internally. And finally, technical workstations, right? You can leverage RHEV in VDI deployments, right? So if you wanted to run virtual desktops, there are a variety of vendors. Citrix is one that comes to mind that supports running on Red Hat virtualization. So that's the last slide that I have. I'm going to get to some of the questions that have come up in the chat, and we'll kind of start from the top here. Rick, you had a question. What are the VMware features not included with RHEV, right? So one of the things that really makes RHEV so powerful and lightweight is that there are a lot of features that aren't in RHEV versus VMware, right? So I would say things like virtual SAN, for example. If you wanted to have make the local storage in VMware, right, and not have a SAN, you could run your storage locally and have it be in a virtual SAN. You can't really do that in RHEV. It's not really intended for that. There's a matrix, right, that I can share with you. There's a data sheet that shows some of those comparisons, and I can make sure you get that and take a look at some of the features that are lacking within RHEV. However, the key features that you really need are all there. So Joe, you had a question. Does RHEV support any hyper-converged hardware or software providers? I'd have to look into that and get back to you. I'm not really sure if RHEV is intended to be used on other hyper-converged systems. So for example, if you wanted to run this, on Nutanix or some sort of SimpliVity system, I'm not sure if that's supported at this time. But again, I'll definitely get back to you on that and see if that's down the pipeline, if it's not supported already. Any other questions before I go into showing some of the basic features in RHEV versus VMware? Okay, so let me go into our lab here. So I've got in our lab, we have a two-node cluster in VMware and vSphere, and then a two-node cluster within Red Hat virtualization. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is, installing this. So how do you start? So the installation of RHEV is basically the same as an installation of vSphere, right? You start with an ISO, right? You can either do it two ways on the Red Hat side. You can do a base installation of RHEL, register that RHEL instance to the Red Hat subscription manager, and then download all the RPM packages via YUM and install the services to make it a hypervisor. Or you can download an ISO from the portal, which already has all those required packages and services in it, then register it with subscription manager, and then do a YUM update to update all the packages, and then you have a virtual host, right? So once you've done that, the next thing you would do is connect that to your RHEV manager, right? The RHEV manager is delivered as a virtual appliance, so you can import that as an appliance, and then connect those hosts into RHEV, build out your data center, your cluster, and all those things. So it's very simple to install. just as simple as it is to install it on VMware. So let's go through the GUI here. I want to show kind of some of the comparisons on the VMware side versus the RHV side. This is just terminology things. So, if we're all familiar with vCenter here, there's this concept of a data center, which is this higher level object within the vCenter that manages everything, has all the objects beneath it, and there's that same concept within RHV. So here's our data center, right? We have a single data center, and then within that we have all the objects and the services that are managed beneath it. So in VMware we have the concept of clusters, right? So a cluster is just a group of hosts configured to operate and run virtual machines. Same thing in Red Hat virtualization, right? So here's our, I'll go to the top level here, and we have a single cluster here, and that contains 2 hosts. So here's our cluster in VMware with 2 hosts. So very similar terminology, right? Networks. We have a single network within RHV that is going to be used for management traffic, your VM migration traffic, and actual network traffic. And in VMware, we have the equivalent here, right? This is a single VM network used for everything. Storage. So in RHV, we have 2 NFS shared storage. They're called storage domains. And in VMware, we have 2 NFS data stores, right? They're called data stores in VMware. So very, very similar, technology and look and feel. Disks. Each VM has its own disk. So if I select this particular VM, I can see that there are 2 disks attached to it, right? Same thing in VMware. If I select the individual VM, I can go to summary and see the disks that are attached to it, right? So let's talk about templates, right? So in VMware, you can create a template and use that template to.
Let's go ahead and find it myself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody jump on? So within vCenter, we have 3 templates, right? And from here, I can right-click and provision a VM from this template. In Red Hat virtualization, I'll go to my templates folder, and here's my template here. I can select new VM, and then proceed to configure this VM and deploy a VM from that template. So same functionality there. So what I'll go through now is kind of some of the common tasks, right? I'll show how you do it in VMware, and I'll show you how you do it in Red Hat virtualization. We'll start with a vMotion. So in VMware, let me go to my virtual machines. If I want to move this VM from the host that it's on, it's currently on 01, you right-click and you migrate. Same thing in Red Hat virtualization, right? So if I go to my VMs, and this is running on 01, or let's select this one here, 01, I can right-click and select migrate, and it'll automatically move it to the other host in that cluster. So very similar, right-click functionality there. Now let's look at storage migration. So in VMware, right, if I want to move the disks associated with this VM, I can do a right-click, migrate, and in this screen, select to only move the disks associated with this particular VM, right? So if I want to move the individual disks, I go here and then pick that disk that I want to move. In Red Hat virtualization, if I, for example, will use this particular VM, I can select the disks tab, choose the disk that I want to move. So for example, I'll choose this disk, right-click, move, and then choose the target data store. We only have 2 in here, so I'm going to select that one. Click OK, and it'll, storage migrate that disk to another data store. Snapshots, right? So VMware has snapshot capability. Right-click, snapshot, take snapshot. In Red Hat virtualization, I can pick my VM, and there's a snapshot button here, create snapshot. And I can choose to snapshot the memory just like you can in VMware as well, right? So if I wanted to take a snapshot of this VM, just do that, click OK. and that snapshot will be created shortly. And here's a task list down here showing you the status of all these tasks that you're running. And same thing down here in VMware, right? Use your task list there. VM console, right? So say I want to bring up a console to the virtual machine. In Red Hat virtualization, it supports SPICE or VNC. So that's this icon here. If I click that, it's going to bring up a console file. I can just click that, and now I have a console to that particular VM. In VMware, right, you can do that from here. I select here, launch remote console. So same idea. Reboot, shut down, and suspend, right? So if I select this icon, I can suspend the VM. This is a shutdown, right? So it'll hard boot it or hard shut it down, basically pulling the power from it, or it'll do a graceful shutdown and then reboot. You have those same functionality, obviously, in VMware as well. You can connect ISOs to the VMs, right? So if you need to install something within VM, I can use this change CD option, right, and connect an ISO file that I have to the VM. And in VMware, right-click. I think you go to, I think it's in Edit Settings, and then from there you choose to attach your particular ISO to that VM, right? You can add disks to these virtual machines, obviously, as they're running, right, or if they're cold, right? So if I want to, this VM, I want to add a disk, select New, choose the size, make this 30 gigs. Data store on the RHV side. It supports thin provisioning or thick provisioning as you would in VMware, right? So if you want to have all your data pre-allocated or you only want it to write the data that's using, you can choose that and then click OK. You can make this disk read only, a variety of options, very similar to, again, what you can do in VMware, right? Network interfaces. So if I want to add a network interface to this particular VM, I can select New, choose the name of the NIC, right, and choose the virtual network profile that I want to attach. We only have one in this lab. And, if you want to assign it a custom MAC address, you want to make it down while it's attached, that's how, you add that particular network. Same thing here in VMware, right? So I can go Actions, and actually, where is it? Edit Settings, and then Add Network, I believe is where that is. Maintenance mode, right? So say you wanted to do some maintenance on a host, right? So in VMware, if you wanted to, for example, do an upgrade on a host, right, you'd first put it in maintenance mode. So you right-click, go to Settings, or here it is, Maintenance mode, and enter maintenance mode. Same concept in RHV. You select your host, right, and go to Management, and then select Maintenance. And basically, it'll move all the VMs that are running on that host, put them on the other host, and then, of course, you can do your update or do any maintenance that you need to on that host. Upgrading a host, right? So in VMware, if you wanted to do a host upgrade, you use the Update Manager service. So right-click, Update Manager, and then scan for your updates, right? You attach your baselines and then import your ISOs to do your packages to do your updates. In Red Hat virtualization, you put the host in maintenance mode, and under management, there's under installation, there's an option to check for an upgrade for that host. So it'll, contact Red Hat, make sure it has a valid subscription, and then pull down the RPMs for that host to update it while it's in maintenance mode. Finally, I know we're getting short on time here, but we've got, I wanted to show some of the cluster features, right? So, one of the big things in VMware is distributed resource scheduling, high availability, and all the features and functionality associated with configuring a cluster, right? In VMware, you have, if I go to settings for the cluster, you can set your DRS automation levels if you want everything to move, fully automated and very conservative. Your power management options, right? So we have power management off on this if you want it to have it provide you recommendations, just a variety of options for managing the cluster settings. On the Red Hat virtualization side, if I go to clusters and select edit, you have similar features and functionality, right? Optimization. So if you wanted to disable memory ballooning, right? So in VMware, there's a driver that you can put in each VM and in the VMware tools that allows memory to be shared. If in a VM with other VMs, if it's not being used, that same technology exists in Red Hat virtualization. There's memory optimization features. Migration policy, this is basically your DRS, right? So the standard policy is minimal downtime, so it's going to automatically move VMs across the host based on load. You can also configure and set certain virtual machines to not move, right? If you want to keep them on certain hosts, you can mark them as not highly available, right? So they'll just stay on a host. Even if it fails, it'll go down. So just a variety of different options for configuring your cluster within Red Hat virtualization. And again, this is it's a very simplified. VMware is very sophisticated. It's very complicated, right? There's a lot of different configuration options within VMware. I feel Red Hat virtualization is a bit simplistic in that sense, and therefore it's kind of easier to use because there's not that much configuration within it. So I think I'll just kind of stop us there and get to some of these questions, right? So let's see, we got a question from Rick. Does Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization include a self-service dashboard that I can use to create VMs? Yes. So that is the user portal that I talked about. So let me go and show you where that is, right? So there's two portals. There's an administration portal, and then there's a user portal, right? So if I go to the user portal and I log in as a user, I'm not sure if I've created a user here. Let's see if I have. So this, I haven't really set this up, but basically what a user will do is through role-based permissions, you can allow them to have access to certain virtual machines or templates in here. And then what they can do is, actually here's a template in here for, since I'm an admin, I can see it. This user could go in here and provision a VM off of this template or edit the template, delete a template, whatever you want to allow them to do. Same thing with existing virtual machines that are already in here. So you can create a group and assign that user, access to a group, and then they can go in and, reboot a VM or, do whatever they need to do on that particular virtual machine. That is what the user portal is intended to do. It's really for them to go in and kind of manage the resources within RHV that they've been given access to. So absolutely. So Rick, you asked, how does the reliability of RHEV compare to VMware? Well, it's designed to run critical workloads, right? So you're going to have your same reliability, I believe, that you would have with VMware, right? So they've got HA, they have, fault tolerance, they have, DRS and automated load balancing. So, if you have a host failure, rest assured your VM will power up on a healthy host, right? If a host is, exceeding its resource capacity, those VMs will move to the other host to load balance it, right? Same thing you get in VMware. So I would say, the reliability is comparable, definitely comparable. As each host registers to validate licensing, is there an option for proxy? Joey, we talked about this earlier, but yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a way to proxy internet connections of a host to through internet, right? So if you don't want, for example, you don't want hosts to be going out to the internet, you can attach them to a proxy whenever it's needed, so they can get out and get their updates, right? And things like that. So. Okay, well, any other questions? Well, great. Well, thanks for your time, everyone. I hope this was useful. I think when you're looking at hypervisor technologies, Red Hat virtualization is definitely an option. Again, it's designed to run everything you need, and it's designed to run at a fraction of the cost of, based on what the costs are for vSphere and Hyper-V. So I think it's definitely something to look at. So thanks again for your time. And I think I'll go ahead and just close the session if there aren't any more questions. So thank you again.